everyone, it's Miss Alvarado. Today I'm going to go over the Give Me 5 for Tuesday. Now for this week we are on page number 3 and we're going to be doing Tuesday. Let's start off with the first column. Round to the underlined place. 95,428. The place value that is underlined is the thousands place, and that is the 5. Okay, so we need to decide, is 95,428 closer to 95,000 or 96,000, since those are the closest thousands. So in order to figure that out, we have a rounding rule. And that rounding rule is 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. Okay, so we're looking at the 5 that's underlined. We need to circle the number to the right, which will be the 4. So I want you to go ahead and circle right there. Circle the 4, because that number that we circle is going to tell us, okay, are we going to round down to 95,000? Or are we going to round up to 96,000? And that's where our rounding rule comes into play. Okay, so we circled the 4. The 4, okay. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. Well, since it's a 4 that we circled, we're going to do 4 or less, let it rest. Meaning that 95,428 is going to round down, since it was 4 or less, to 95,000. Let's move on to the second column, decimal to fraction or fraction to decimal, whatever they're asking you to do. For these benchmark fractions, 1/2, I want you to think of money, okay? And 1/2, that's half of a whole. So think of half of a dollar. What's half of a dollar? 50 cents. How do we write 50 cents as a decimal? Decimal 50. And that is the equivalence to 1/2. Column 3, decimals. They are wanting you to subtract 346 hundredths minus 21 and 7/10. Now, there's a very, 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 very important rule that you need to remember when you're adding and subtracting decimals. And that is lining up the decimals. Because when you line up the decimals, you're lining up your numbers by place value. And if you don't do that, then all your numbers are going to be wrong and your answer is going to be wrong. So this is how we're going to set it up. Notice how my decimals are lined up, therefore all my numbers are lined up by place value. Well, some of you may ask, well, Miss Alvarado, we're going to subtract, but that 6 has nothing to subtract by. And you're absolutely right. Now, from the looks of it, from the work that I've already seen, some of you remembered that you can put a placeholder 0 at the end of that number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do it because it's a better visual for me to have that 0 there. And then we're going to start subtracting. 6 minus 0 is 6. 4 minus 7. Can I give Jackson 7 pieces of candy if I only have 4? No. So we're going to have to go to our next door neighbors and borrow. Okay? So the 4 is going to go ask the 0. The 0 doesn't have anything. He's going to go ask the other 0. The 0 doesn't have anything. But his homeboy 3 got some to share. So he's like, sure, you can have one. So we're going to cross out that 3. And he's going to give that 0 next to him 1. So that 3 is going to turn into a 2. That 3 is going to turn into a 2. And that 0 right next to it is going to turn into a 10. And it's going to look like this. Okay? But then the 0 next to that one still needs something, because remember that 4 is the one that really needs some more candy so that they can give it to Jackson. So that 10 is like, sure, I'll give you 1 from my 10. So that we're going to cross out that 10 and we're going to make it a 9. And then we're going to give that 1 to that other 10 right next to it. So it's going to look like this. And then the 4 is still like, yo, I still need 1. So that 10's like, okay, I'll give you 1. So we're going to cross out that 10, make it a 9, because he's going to give us 1. So it's going to make that 4 into a 14. And so you should have these numbers at the top. 2, 9, 9, 14. Okay, those are our new numbers. Now we can subtract with those numbers. 14 minus 7 is 7. 9 minus 1 is 8. 9 minus 2 is 7. And 2 minus nothing is 2. Do not forget to drop your decimal straight down. So your final answer is 278 and 76 hundredths. The next column is labeled solve and label. Solve and label. And these diagrams which you're seeing, they're called strip diagrams. Strip diagrams are made up of parts and wholes. So let's take a look at this one. This part and this part together make up this whole entire whole. So we're actually missing the whole, and we have our 2 parts. So I'm going to go ahead and label my whole and my 2 parts. Well, I know 1,200 and 989 together will make up that whole. So what operation are we going to do? Correct. Addition. So 1,200 plus 989. Make sure you line up your numbers by place value so you don't get them mixed up. And we're going to add 0 plus 9 is 9. 0 plus 8 is 8. 9 plus 2 is 11. Drop the 1, carry the 1 on over. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, and don't forget your comma in between the 2 and the 1. That's separating the different place values. So your answer is 2,189. Now, that strip diagram wanted you to add. Okay, for the one on Monday, we had our whole and we had 1 part. We were missing the other part. So in order to find that, we had to subtract our whole minus 1 part to get the missing part. And then the last column, multiplication facts, are just basic multiplication facts that you will need to memorize for the rest of your academic career. So 6 times 9 is 54. And if you need to repeat that 3 times in your head to help you memorize that, go ahead and do that. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 9 is 54. All right, next one. 7 times 8 is 72. Just kidding. 7 times 8 is 56. Look, even teachers make mistakes. It's okay. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 8 is 56. And last one, 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 8 is 64. Now, when you go in to Google Classroom and click on the Google form for the Give Me 5 for Tuesday, okay, all you're doing is plugging in your answers into the correct question, okay? And now the way that the Google form is set up, it is very sensitive when it comes to the answers that you type in, okay? So you need to make sure that for 95,000, you're putting that comma in your answer, because if you don't, it's going to count it wrong. Now, do we know that the answer is 95000? Yes. But in the computer brain, you need to put the comma there because that's what technically the correct answer is, 95,000. Same thing for decimals. If your answer has a decimal in it, make sure you type it in your answer on that Google form. So there's many ways you could have written 0.50. You could have done it 0.5 tenths, 0.50 like this. As long for this question, as long as that 5 is in the tenths place, then your answer is correct. Okay, so it might say it's wrong because it looks different, but as long as that 5 is in the tenths place, then you're fine. For the solve and label on the Google Forms, okay, you're putting in, we solved for the whole, so you had to add this number and this number, and your answer was 2,189. So when it asks what part is missing or what's the missing part, it's what you got for your answer. Make sure you put your name at it's the first open slot on the Google form, so I know who is turning in their work. And I will see you next time. Thank you.